think there's anything valuable in all of this junk?
Are you some kind of moron?
At the start of each year, I'll write up a list of retrospectives I want to cover throughout the year. Now, I looked at The Punisher 20 years later, I've gone through Mass Effect 1 and 2, and I've previously looked at multiple Alien games, the Lord of the Rings games, as well as there was one game I was quite keen to check on in Fallout 4, returning to it 10 years later. I'd previously lined up this game and my retrospective for it when I did my retrospective for Red Dead Redemption 2, and I even booted up Fallout 4 for about 5 to 10 minutes in the prologue, and I kinda had to stop, as at the time, I was a new first-time father, and well, if you know and you've played Fallout 4 before, well, it wasn't a great game to boot up when you've got a kid who is days old.
I hurt myself today.
But well, now that he's older and I've had to do a complete PC rebuild and I've had some free time, I decided to go through my retrospective list and to knuckle down, harden up a little, and fire up Fallout 4. And how does it hold up 10 years later, and should you check it out if you've never played Fallout before? Because, well, Fallout is a bit more in the spotlight now with the pretty damn good TV series, the ever-evolving Fallout 76, and the constant popularity of Fallout New Vegas, which maybe I'll do a retrospective on a little bit later. Set in an alternate universe timeline where after World War II the US and the world focused on nuclear power and used it to power everyday items, like for example cars. And with the threat of nuclear war as well all around, the company Vault-Tec set up underground nuclear fallout vaults around America. Now yeah, this is a oversimplification, I'm not going to do a deep dive into this, but Fallout 4 follows your custom-made character who has come home from military service, and while enjoying a new domestic lifestyle with your husband or wife, depending on what character you make, you have a new family with a new baby as well in Sean. You start the game with creating your character, customizing your male or female player, and even in turn customizing your partner, choosing some starting perks, and even your character's name, which a cool little thing that blew my mind 10 years ago, but your robot butler Codsworth will openly call you by your character's name, depending on what you've picked as well.
Mr. George, Sean has been changed, but he absolutely refuses to calm down.
But you'll have Vault-Tec knocking on your door like Avon calling in Edward Scissorhands, signing you and your family up for access to the local vault in Vault 111. Shortly after signing up your family, there are news reports of bombs dropping across America, causing you and your family to quickly scramble to the nearby vault, which luckily you just signed up to. Having just escaped the blast, you and your family are quickly rushed into the vault and placed into cryotubes to wait out radiation. However, your character and your partner, my wife in this instance, and baby Sean are separated. You then wake up mid-cryosleep to see someone kidnap your son and shoot your partner, and you're stuck inside your cryotube with nothing to do but watch. No! Later on, your cryotube malfunctions and your character awakens to then leave the vault and go searching for your missing son. And after a brief tutorial on how to use weapons, your skills, getting the iconic Pip-Boy, you're then set out into post-apocalyptic Boston 200 years after the bomb has dropped to go and find your son Sean and maybe get a bit of revenge. This works as the opening hook for Fallout 4, and shortly after you leave the vault you'll be introduced to companions like the iconic best dog in gaming in Dogmeat, but you'll also find your residential robot butler Codsworth, who's trying to get the rust out of your car.
How do you polish rust?
And even factions to side with like the Minutemen, the Brotherhood of Steel, and more, all of which will help you find Sean if you side with them and you help them.
Oh, how convenient.
If for whatever reason you never played Fallout before, don't stress, because if you've played Skyrim, The Outer Worlds, or even the brilliant RPG that is Cyberpunk, Fallout will feel like second nature. But if for whatever reason you never played any of those, Fallout is a third-person or a first-person RPG, depending on your preferences and your playstyles, where you run around with firearms, melee weapons, laser guns, science weapons. You can even run around with your fists if that's your preference, and you just basically survive in the post-apocalyptic world. When you wake up from your cryo chamber in the vault, you will get a pistol, a stun baton for if you run out of ammo or should you run out of ammo, and the trusty Pip-Boy, which I will come back to in a bit. But after leaving the vault, you're more, say, exposed to the variety of new plants, new animals, enemies, and a whole lot more. Naturally, being an RPG, there is a fairly in-depth leveling system with skills, perks, and abilities to unlock. You'll start with your opening attributes that you'll then tunnel down into further skills, because when you first start Fallout 4 while entering your character's details when Vault Tech comes knocking at your door, you will then pick your relevant sort of what areas you want to put your points into, basically what makes your character special. Put more points into strength, you'll be able to carry more and deal more damage with melee weapons. Put more points into charisma, you'll be able to talk yourself out of situations and convince others in dialogue options. Which, having your character voiced as well in your dialogue options is pretty damn cool, I'm not gonna lie. But the skill tree, relatively simple to understand, where you can unlock, say, the Weaponsmith perk, allowing you to use weapon benches in the game, which will allow you to craft and equip upgrades for your weapons, which comes in handy. Put points into intelligence, well then you can unlock the Science perk, which, say, you can then put a science-based weapon in, like, say, a laser, and upgrade the laser rifles. Anyway, outside of the perk system, the combat here is meaty, and honestly, I kinda forgot how brutal it can be.
Not a good time to lose one's head.
Using shotguns in close range causes limbs to come off. Hell, even using pistols at a distance can cause limbs to come off, and these will be arms, legs, and heads can just pop off with this guttural blurg sound effect. Enemies can be turned into literal ash when you hit them with energy weapons, which is always a cool effect. Now, speaking of weapons, there is a large variety to choose from. You'll start with a standard 10mm pistol that you'll find inside the vault when you wake up, but then you'll find general raiders that will use pipe pistols, and weapons that have literally been put together with wood, pipe, and scraps. And while common at the start of the game, they can then be upgraded to, say, be made fully auto or deal some damage. Naturally though, as you progress either through the main story or through some of the DLC available, you'll face new enemies from standard raiders to organised crime using Tommy guns, and even wandering enemy factions who use flamethrowers or gamma weapons that will give you radiation damage. And speaking of radiation damage, or RADS as the Fallout series calls it, that is a key system here in the game, where anything you consume to restore your health or to keep your hydration and hunger levels at certain levels, or certain sort of parameters if you will, should you choose to play in the realism survivalist mode that is available when you play Fallout. But anytime you sort of eat something or ingest something, or basically whatever it is you're consuming, there is an aspect of radiation to it which will lower your total health pool. The more you eat or drink contaminated items, the more rad damage you take, and sure, it will heal you in a sense, but it will lower your total health points. Thankfully, radiation damage or RADs can be removed by using a medication out in the world, mainly Radaway, which does exactly what it says on the bottle, but there's also food items out in the world that will restore your health without giving you radiation damage, like say purified water, or you can use the medical stim packs. Outside of rival gangs and thugs and criminals and raiders, you'll also face off against natural wildlife that has been altered and changed from nuclear fallout. You'll first find and face off against rad roaches, which are giant cockroaches that can apply radiation damage when they attack you. You'll also have mutated cows, which will leave you alone, but the first time I saw these I freaked the fuck out because it is a giant two-headed cow. There are mongrels or wolves that are basically radiated dogs. There are rad scorpions. Don't get me wrong, they're not rad, they are giant mutated scorpions. They're actually kind of frightening. But most famously, there are the Deathclaws, which are as horrifying as they sound. They are modified and mutated lizards. Again, oversimplifying it here, but these things can really mess you up. Thankfully though, Deathclaws are a bit easier to manage in the Fallout world with the iconic power armor. It is a suit similar as to, say, Space Marines power armor from the Warhammer 40k universe, in that it will let you take more damage, it will increase your carrying capacity, give you more radiation resistance and lower your fall damage, because you can also get radiation damage by going into heavy nuclear zones like, say, bomb sites in the wasteland, or being caught in a radiation storm. You'll first unlock your first piece of power armor relatively early in the game when you're facing off against a Deathclaw. Now, power armor isn't just items that you equip by, say, putting on a jacket, but instead it is a suit that your character physically gets into, and you need a power core to fuel the suit. Now, if you don't have any power cores, you can't use the power armor, but also, when you're in the power suit, or in the power armor, you need to keep an eye on your fuel levels, because if that gets empty, you then need to get out of the suit, put in a new fuel cell, and then get back into it. But just like Skyrim, Cyberpunk, everything else really, defeating enemies, whether they're human or not, they can be looted for weapons, ammo, clothes, meat, materials, and even junk like, say, pocket watches or toasters. Hell, even toys can be looted from enemies, which you can then take back to your base of operations or to your settlement, whichever you prefer to really use, and you can do base building like creating new defenses, new buildings, water pumps, storage lockers so you're not walking around carrying everything. Hell, you can even plant crops and make a cooking station so then you can load up on food before you go out and do your missions.
I love being incontinent. I love being incontinent.
The base building is relatively straightforward to understand, but it is also a bit of a gateway drug too. Now, when you first meet the friendly faction of the Minutemen, they will teach you the base building mechanics of how to create beds, how to get resourced water, how to create generators and so on, and it is pretty easy to get sucked into the base building elements here. Naturally too, being a Bethesda RPG, there are weapons, skills, but also equipment and armor that you can equip as well, but it will change the look of your character and overall defensive buffs. And just like how weapons can be modified at weapon benches, armor can be upgraded at armor workbenches. So if you've got a set of armor that you personally are attached to, you can try and keep it up to date by sort of putting more materials into it and upgrading it. But what Fallout 4 also does with some certain armors as well, is you can equip armor pieces over your base clothing. Now, for example, you can equip leather armor or raider armor on top of your vault suit, which I thought is actually kind of a cool addition, and I'd like to see a bit more of this. But the main thing that every Fallout game needs, especially after Fallout 3 I guess, is the Pip-Boy. It is the in-game or in-universe in-depth menu that gives you your map, your inventory system, your objectives, your in-game flashlight, your skill tree, basically everything. The Pip-Boy is the equivalent of strapping your phone and your backpack and basically everything to your wrist, and this device is probably the most iconic thing in the Fallout series, besides maybe the Vault Boy. And suitably so, the Pip-Boy has a radio where you will get some bangin' tunes at a Diamond City radio. The Pip-Boy can also introduce you to new missions and exploration items too, and yes, you can use the Pip-Boy to highlight your next mission or what direction you're moving in, but as I mentioned, the Pip-Boy has a radio that you can use to listen to music while you play the game, but you can also find new radio signals when you're exploring the world. That can be an SOS from a nearby settlement and it will start up a new mission chain. The Fallout series also has a unique combat aspect too that also, honestly, I kind of forgot it was there at moments, but they're so damn iconic and rad in the VATS system, where you can basically pause the game, have your character target and shoot specific areas on an enemy's body, from their head, their arms, their legs, and time slows down when you select these actions too, making it pretty cool. A little bit like a bullet time effect when you sort of activate that your character is going to shoot for the head or something like that. Now, VATS is a Pip-Boy style system, and you spend action points, or AP, to shoot certain areas. There'll be a percentage of the likelihood of you hitting those parts, and AP or action points regenerate over time. So if you're after a wicked and more gory moment in your combat, then you use the VAT system, and it's just kind of cool, bit of fun. Like, I was always reacting to when I was shooting someone's limbs off at close range using a shotgun with the VATs. I always found it kind of funny.
I've had enough of this. Time for the hard goodbye.
That's not the way to get ahead in life.
Now, there's a lot of things that Fallout 4 gets right, but firstly, for me, it's the opening premise and the story. Now, as a kid, I remember my mates at school talking about Fallout 3 and that it is a brilliant game, saying it was better than Oblivion, and yeah, I can kind of see that point of view, but personally, I found the story of Fallout 3 wasn't overly for me. But mind you, at that time, I lived and breathed games like Gears of War. But the premise here of your wife or your husband being killed and your child being kidnapped and having to find them out in a post-apocalyptic world of Boston as an initial hook was pretty damn captivating in my opinion. When Fallout 4 released 10 years ago, a co-worker was telling me to take a look at it, and I told him I didn't really like Fallout 3, but the opening premise of me just, taking a risk and playing Fallout 4 of making your character, customizing your husband and wife, choosing your name that then Codsworth will even openly say, and the prologue alone really impressed me, and today, 10 years later, it still does. Similar to Skyrim before it, after the prologue you can really set out to do whatever you want in the world of Fallout 4. You can follow the main story, you can do side missions, and with the additional DLC and recent creation labs as well, there is additional pieces of content to come back to and check out. If you're not happy with your character too after you leave the vault and explore the world, in the main city in Fallout 4 of Diamond City, there is a barber so you can change your hair, and there's a plastic surgeon to alter what you look like, and it was just a cool little addition personally.
Wait, what are you gonna do to me?
I'm proposing surgery. Not just any surgery. Facial reconstruction surgery. Safe and instantaneous.
Now I will admit, I've never done the Nuka World, the Cold Harbor, or the Automatron DLC, and maybe that's a video for a later date. But I did check out the Creation Lab content here, and I was properly impressed with the scope of content that fans have made. Now for this playthrough, I got through the prologue and about 12 hours of side missions and general content before I decided to check out the Tales of the Beast Hunter and become a bounty hunter. The Beast Hunter DLC is free, and it introduces you to a NCR ranger in Boston who has a pet Deathclaw, and it's pretty damn impressive. The Beast Hunter content kinda gave me sort of Killer Croc vibes from Arkham Asylum, where there's constant moments of tension and a bit of horror. You'll unlock a stupidly powerful and dope shotgun rifle, modified NCR armor, and the quest to hunt down a legendary Deathclaw that then upgrades your NCR armor from there. Yeah, hunting down the legendary Deathclaw? I kinda shat myself doing this mission. Fuck me.
Guess who?
Oh, you're fucking kidding. The Bounty Hunter DLC, or the content in the Creation Lab here, works really damn well too. Now yeah, it is a paid piece of content, but it is kinda worth it because it introduces a bounty hunter style system where you can act as a bounty hunter, taking down targets for rewards, which is kinda dope, but it can also cause bounty hunters to target you if you do unlawful things. And it also introduces a storyline that is fully voiced and gives you bounty hunter gear and unique weapons, and it absolutely slaps, I won't lie. And for certain points while playing the game after I'd actually done and unlocked this DLC, I was more so sort of acting like a Fallout version, or in-universe Fallout version, of Cad Bane, and I was all for it.
You'll never be the head of a major corporation.
Okay, that'll do.
Okay.
While Fallout 4 is a brilliant game, don't get me wrong, there were some issues I had with it. Now, firstly, for me, I'm not a modder when it comes to PC games. I like to purchase a game from Steam, download the game, and start playing. And that wasn't possible here in Fallout 4. The game would crash constantly, and it was for a few reasons. Firstly, the game doesn't like to run past 60 frames per second, so I had to go into my Nvidia graphic settings for Fallout 4 and limit the game to 60 frames per second. If the game runs higher than that frame rate, the dialogue is super quick and the lip sync is off, and a sentence won't finish properly, and it kinda really put me off from playing the game.
You see, Vaultec is the foremost builder of state-of-the-art underground fallout shelters. Luxury accommodations where you can wait out the horror.
I see your lips moving, but I can't make out your words. I'm deaf!
Once I fixed that though, I was all sorted. But secondly, when you boot up the game, you need to turn off weapon collision. Otherwise, the game will immediately crash when you're leaving your home during the prologue when you're running to the vault. And it kind of ruins the immersion and tension of the moment. Hearing that the world is going into nuclear war, there's sirens blaring everywhere, you and your family are running to the nearest vault, the game crashes.
What the? Sergeant Angel? Yes! Sir!
I had one game crash that was kind of funny where I just kind of froze in the air for about a minute and then I fell out of the sky and died. Or in one of them when I was doing the Bounty Hunter sort of content creation club content, The target I was hunting for a bounty tunnel visioned on me when they were standing on top of a building, and they just walked off the top of the building to get closer to me and just died, and I actually thought that was fucking hilarious. Now, I wanted to start a new element of my retrospectives with how do games play out on the go, and seeing as portable handheld devices are getting more and more popular, my mates at MSI Australia were kind enough to loan me a MSI Claw 8 AI Plus to test out Fallout 4 and a couple of other games out on the go. And I gotta say, the Claw handled Fallout 4 better than playing Fallout on my PC, as the MSI Claw 8 AI Plus is basically a handheld laptop for gaming. There is a Windows and a desktop interface, but unlike my PC, I didn't need to go into any graphics settings and limit the frame rate to 60 frames per second, nor did I need to adjust the weapon collision graphic details, which caused my game to crash on the PC. I got a solid 8 hours, maybe a bit more, playing Fallout 4 on the handheld, and the only downside I had wasn't with the MSI Claw, but more so the Creation Lab in Fallout 4. Now, as I'm new to playing games on the go, I was super impressed that I could play Fallout 4 at home on my PC, but if I say went to my local pub to sink some pints and play Fallout, Steam would have my saved files on the cloud so I could sort of pick up where I left off. I was really impressed with that. What was the teething issue though was the additional content the game had installed throughout the Creation Lab on my PC, with the Bounty Hunter DLC and the Beast Hunter. The game will alert you though that the save data that you are trying to load has content creation installed, and recommends that you install it before you then proceed with your load game and to install it onto your portable. But when you're booting up the Creation Lab's menus on the MSI Claw, the Creation Lab would crash and take me back to the main menu of the game. Now, I tried this for about 2 days trying to download and get the Creation Lab content to install, until randomly one day it worked. So I got the Bounty Hunter and the Beast Hunter DLC content installed, and it was really smooth sailings from then on out, and I just had a blast. Gameplay and stat wise, the lowest frame rate I was getting was around 45 frames per second during a section of the game where I was roaming the Boston countryside doing a Brotherhood of Steel mission during a radiation storm and enemies on screen. I didn't experience any stuttering moving between the menus on the Pip-Boy, and the load times as well actually weren't too bad. However, if you're interested in portable handheld gaming and you're looking at playing games from your PC, on a plane, on a train, or maybe even a automobile, I'll chuck a link in the description below for more details on the MSI Claw 8 AI Plus. When people say their favourite Fallout game is Fallout 3 due to them sinking thousands of hours in it from their childhood, or the barren yet entertaining Nevada wastelands of Fallout New Vegas, I can totally understand their point of view. But for me, Fallout 4 was the entry that got me invested into this franchise. The intro 10 years ago was gripping, and now currently for me, it hits even harder as a new parent. The thing Fallout 4 for me is as well is I can just turn my brain off and keep playing this. For this video, I spent an unhealthy amount of time with the base building aspect with the Minutemen and in Sanctuary. Roaming around the wasteland that is Boston is just a blast. Hell, I actually booted up my original save on my Xbox just to look at where I explored, and I made note to check out some new areas, and I was actually kind of baffled with different environments that I never experienced or explored when I originally played Fallout 4 on release. There were things that I found in this playthrough too that I didn't actually notice first time around 10 years ago. Like, I didn't know if you went into a river with power armor on that you would sink to the bottom of the river and you'd need to walk out. But should you check out Fallout 4, does it hold up 10 years later? Well, in my opinion, yeah, it holds up, and it's worth going back to if it's been a hot minute since you've played it. The Creation Lab content gives you more to play with. The Bounty Hunter DLC lets you act out as, say, the Ghoul from the TV series, and the Beast Hunter pack is properly impressive for free DLC. It honestly took me longer than most games to make this video, as I was just enjoying Fallout 4. I played this on the couch with my wife as she watched the Real Housewives of whatever the fuck, and at my local pub sinking a couple of pints. Diamond City Radio will have you bobbing your head and tapping your feet the entire time it's playing. Hell, even on this playthrough, there were things I didn't realise, like Dogmeat will crouch when you crouch. How did I not notice that the first time? While Fallout fans have been waiting for Bethesda to give us a remaster of Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, just like they did with Oblivion, Fallout 4 still gives you that dose of what you're after. While it took some fiddling to get it working correctly on my PC, and the Creations Lab was some trial and error on portables, when Fallout 4 shines, it shines. But whether you think Fallout 5 needs to be based or set somewhere crazy like maybe New York or London, or you've recently found yourself hooked into the franchise, always remember to play with each other and play with yourself.